let's have a conversation this morning because, in a way, it's kind of related. Honorable Adejo Radiogun joins us this morning to have this conversation because the Senate stepped down a bill for an act to prescribe standard and conditions of license for operation and practice of private investigators in Nigeria. What all of that is about, let's hear from Honorable Adejo Radiogun, former Deputy Chairman, House Committee on National Security and Intelligence. Thanks for joining us this morning, Honorable. Oh, well, I guess we're going to get him back. As soon as we do have him, we'll let you know. So essentially what the whole issue is about is that the Senate halted the progress of that bill aimed at regulating private investigators. That bill was sponsored by Senator Ositangu, who sought to establish licensing standards and conditions for private investigation practices. His argument is that the bill would help regulate private investigators, offering investigative support to law enforcement as seen in other countries like the US, UK, and all of that. Of course, the bill faced opposition, strong opposition from several lawmakers, including Senator Shomale and a number of others. Honorable, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. So, help us understand what exactly this bill is about and all of the things that have gone ahead of it. I mean, having chaired the deputy chair the House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, what's the implication of this development?
Thank you once for having me. My understanding of this bill is just an act to regulate the private security industry and put them under some kind of control. We were not sure what happens within the Senate because when you have a bill, it's not enough to get a bill to the floor, especially when it's undergoing second reading. You have to do due diligence. You have to lobby your colleagues. You have to reach out to them days before the presentation. I am not sure if Senator Mungu did that, so that could have been the reason he faced so much opposition. Aside that, I think it's a good thing. Nigeria need that the bill. We need a law to regulate the private security and the private investigation industry. We'll be deceiving ourselves thinking that they don't exist. They exist in Nigeria, they operate illegally without any form of regulation. I think it will be in the interest of national security and, of course, the entire Nigerians if we can put them under some form of regulatory control.
One of the questions to ask would be, do you think we are ripe for that now? Are we developed enough for it?
You see, we all have them operating in Nigeria. So are we ripe? It's like, they already operate in what I call the black economy. So we'll be pretending that they don't exist. But if they do exist, then we should regulate. Right now, they're operating without any license, without any form of regulations. I think for some reason, we should bring them under strict control.
So how about that argument that some senators or some lawmakers believe that it could be used for political blackmail and extortion?
You do not need private investigators to embark on political blackmail. People go to blackmail every day. You're seeing that on social media every day. So you just don't require private investigators to do that. But the reality is, if we really want to have a society where we create jobs, we legitimize, things that happen in the black economy, we have to look at the merit of whatever bill is brought before the National Assembly. I think what they should have done is looked at the merits beyond the political side of it. Because right now, you can hire private investigators to do any kind of investigation, and they will operate without any license, without any control, without anybody regulating that. In countries where private investigators operate, they have rules, especially on data protection. They have rules restricting their ability to operate because there's a narrow gap for them. They involve in investigations, in missing persons investigation, in background checks and things like that. They're not involved in criminal investigation unless they're doing it to support the police. Otherwise, they're supposed to deal strictly on issues that are civil in nature.
One of the concerns could be whether or not they would bear arms.
Private investigators don't have to bear arms. I mean, I did say that all their only restrict to civil cases. And where they have I'll call it non-violent criminal cases, which will be cases like fraud, like missing persons, like kidnapping and things like that. If they're involved in it, they're doing it to complement the job of the police, not to do it independently, because they can't prosecute. They don't have any power to prosecute, and they don't have the power of arrest.
Thank you for staying with us. We're having a conversation with Honorable Adejora Adeogun on the bill that's been stepped down in the National Assembly Senate to regulate private investigators in the country. Now, Honorable, one of the issues that a number of people want to ask is, look, how does it help? I mean, you say it's a good thing, you should have been, taken to the next level, but really, how does that help or harm? How does it interfere with the work of the police in Nigeria?
It does not interfere with the work of the police. It's meant to complement what the police does. You see, now there's so many cases in which the police is involved in civil investigations, civil issues that ordinarily private investigators can take off them. So that's where it will help. And then let's look at it even from the economic perspective. We need to create jobs for people who have, training in intelligence, training in policing and all that. And sometimes when they retire, they need things to do. So I see this as an avenue to create jobs for them. We shouldn't miss that opportunity. We shouldn't miss an opportunity to actually, like I said, to legitimize an industry that is existing under the radar. We have private investigators in Nigeria now, and they're employed by multinationals. They're contracted by embassies when they have to deal with issues of visa issuance and all that. They're employed by banks, by insurance companies when they're investigating insurance fraud, bonds and all that. So they exist. So all we're basically saying is, look, if this industry exists, if these people are already operating, you have people involved in forensic investigations and they go to court to give evidence, they fall within this scope of private investigators. So give them a regulatory authority, give them a law to regulate them, to guide what they're doing, and then, let them pay tax to government rather than operating under the radar.
So two things right quick, Honorable. One, under which agency of government will it be? And secondly, under which agency of government will it be? Will it only be under the federal or state governments? And then secondly, what are the other issues that should be considered if this idea, as you're talking about it, if this idea is to see the light of what are the issues that need to be considered critically?
Okay, now this is something we're borrowing from other countries. In the United Kingdom, it's a federal issue, national issue. In the United States, states have regulations specific to them. But what is general to all of them is two things: data protection and limitation of powers to operate to investigate. So it means that they have a limit to the things they could be involved in. So once you have done that, you know that they're working within a narrow boundary. And now you're asking which agency will regulate them. Now, the security industry, the private security industry in Nigeria is being regulated by Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and I think they should fall under their purview.
Well, then if it's going to be, so I hear you say on the one hand it should be under the NSCDC, then you're also talking about the states. I want to understand.
Yes, you see, I gave you two instances. I gave you the instance of the United Kingdom, which is a national one. I gave you instances of the United States where it's states per state. But then you have an existing federal regulation, but the states have a concurrent power to regulate. So you could have the same thing in Nigeria. I mean, I know that in 2022, even then prisons were deregulated in Nigeria, and it was put under the concurrent list. Nigerian Railway now, state can now be involved in licensing of railways and power generation and all that. This were in the situation before. So you can have a similar situation in which the regulation of the private investigation industry is put on the concurrent list.
If you can take this in about 10 seconds, there's also the concern of need for balance of transparency and individual privacy rights.
That's why you have the Data Protection Act. That's why, if you regulate, then you can put them under certain regulation and ensure that they stay strictly. But now that they're operating without any form of regulation, so on which law will you use to prosecute someone who has violated privacy? None. Look at what is happening on social media.
Absolutely.
It's similar.
Well, thank you so much. This has been quite elucidating for a number of people. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Honorable Adejora Adeogun is a former deputy chairman House Committee on National Security and Intelligence. Appreciate your time.